episode 162, Lessons on Suicide. I'm your host, Dr. Justin Trosclair, and today we hear Frank King's perspective. Join 2017 and 18 Podcast Awards nominated host and best-selling author on Amazon as we get a behind-the-curtain look at all types of doctor and guest specialties. Let's hear a doctor's perspective. Welcome back to the show. Halloween month. Woo! If you're into that. Autumn leaves are changing. And guess what else can change? The way you present yourself to other doctors for referrals. Whether you're a PT or a chiro looking to get some referrals from a medical doctor, maybe you're looking to do a podcast guest, beef up your resume in that area, or local speaking gigs, whether it's chamber, BNI, or a workshop with a big corporation. What are you going to send these people so that they actually return your email? Or if you go to the office and you give them something, what are you going to do? A trifold brochure? I sure hope not. It's 2020. So, one sheets. It's a one page. It's concise. It's a quick bio, relevant to being a speaker or referral partner, your keynote topics, examples of how you're awesome, maybe some testimonials, your social media contacts, your web pages, all of that stuff in a pretty layout. That's what I do. I've been doing it for a little while. Decided, okay, let me start mentioning it on the podcast. You can go to adoctorsperspective.net/one sheet, look at some samples, and it's affordable. I'm not charging $500 or even $400 for these things, which you would pay if you went to a dedicated, maybe graduated graphic designer. But the quality is still there. Just take a look. All right. So anyway, today is a tough topic, but our guy is actually a comedian who deals with suicidal tendencies and depression and things. So we're going to cover, as a doctor, what are we going to look for? What can we do about it? Some great resources. And we'll even discuss people like Kate Spade, Anthony Bourdain. How do the people that seem to have it all end up killing themselves? What's up with that? We'll also give you some resources for your patients if they need free help or like a sliding scale, and the ways that we can, like I said, we can approach this delicately if they're depressed and know that they are loved, that somebody cares, and hopefully get the help that they need. He was escaping Oregon's fires, so his cell phone was a little clicky here and there, so just be aware of that. And yeah, like I said, he does comedy about mental health and suicide. It's a tough subject, so it's kind of nice to be able to soften it with some humor involved. So stay tuned. adoctorsperspective.net/162 is where you can find the show notes and transcript. Let's go. # behind the curtain. Live from Germany and Oregon, today on the show we have got a great guest. He's called the mental health comedian, and so he's a comedian, but he also has a serious message to bring, and it's about depression and suicide, and you can catch him all the social media. He's a funny guy, even on YouTube. So please welcome to the show, Frank King.
Hey guys! Hello, Germany!
Yeah. We're not too worried about those fires over here. Tell you that.
Could you please send Angela Merkel over to run things over here? That'd be really nice.
Yeah, that's what I hear. She's they love her here.
She's sane. That's all I'm asking. She's smarter than I am. That's all I really want in a president. Smarter than I am.
That's it. Well, I was, I've watched some of your YouTube things, your TedX, 5-time TedX, y'all, 5 times. And it's a really powerful story. Having a pretty good career, having a lot of comedy shows, and then the recession hit, and then boom, the bottom falls out, no money, life is stressed. And not to take away your whole story, but he has a family of depression and suicide. I think your mom and your aunt or something like that.
It's called generational depression and suicide. My grandmother died by suicide. My mother found her. My great aunt died by suicide. My mother and I found her. I was 4 years old. I screamed for days. And in 2010, at the height of the recession, speaking business dropped off 80% overnight, lost everything in a Chapter 7 bankruptcy, and that's when I learned what the barrel of my gun tasted like.
Yes.
Spoiler alert, I didn't pull the trigger.
It's a good spoil.
Yep. A friend of mine came up to me after I said that at a keynote. He'd never heard me say that. And he said, and I quote, "Hey, man, how come you didn't pull the trigger?" I go, "Hey, man, could you try to sound a little less disappointed?"
What do you say, All right,
Yeah.
well, I guess you failed at one more thing. No, that's messed up.
Yeah, failed to suicide. No, that I've got an acquaintance who actually shot himself in the heart and
Oh no.
survived. And when he woke up, the first thing he thought was, "Man, I'm such a loser. I can't even kill myself."
He has a dark humor. Okay, people, he's got a little bit of dark humor. Okay, we're gonna take a turn here.
Oh yeah. Well, and what your listeners don't know is we were evacuated. I'm in Oregon. There's wildfires all over the place. There's a wildfire right now about 1.25 miles from our house. And fortunately, the wind died down to 1 mile an hour. Humidity's up in the 80% range, so it's cooler. And so hopefully, and they're going to send in 375 National Guard troops, all trained in wildfire management tomorrow. So it looks like the house will survive. But on Tuesday, I met the doctor, my cardiologist, because I have some heart issues as well. And there's 3 levels. Level 1 is get ready. Level 2 is get set. Level 3 is go now. Don't pack anything, just go. So I'm at the cardiologist, and we were at a level 1 when I left home, and then they jumped to 3 without going to 2. So I had to bag the appointment with the cardiologist, get in the car, drive 25 minutes home into level 3, which is just get
Right,
out.
wrong way.
Don't pack. Don't take the pets. I'm like, that ain't gonna happen. Because we had 11 cats at the house, and so I'm not leaving. I'm like the Marine Corps. I don't leave anybody
Right.
behind. And so I have a whole new respect for the term herding cats.
Just get in. Just go. We gotta go.
I got all 11 of them in the carriers in the car, and we took off. And fortunately, we didn't have to drive through fire or anything, but I did get them to a it's her cat rescue friend of mine runs, and she said, I'll take them in. That's fine.
So hopefully it rains, and then that'll be a huge benefit.
Yeah, there's a chance of rain on Monday and Tuesday, and temperatures are going to go down, which helps with firefighting. And so we're hoping, knock wood, and of course the National Guard troops are going to that's going to triple the size of the force fighting the fires. So
yeah,
we're hoping. Here's the thing, man. I'm scheduled next week to close on a mortgage refi at 2.99%, and I called my mortgage broker and I said, hey man, listen, if the title company doesn't ask, do I have to tell them it burned to the ground?
Do I have enough insurance to cover a rebuild? Because this would be great.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Anyway, yeah, he goes, man, if it burns, you're gonna have to tell them it's gone. I said, okay, fine.
Yeah. Maybe you have to move.
Fine.
Is moving a chance? Like, can you move to another state or something for now?
Oregon overall. One of the reasons my in-laws moved to Oregon, and we're living in the house my wife grew up in. One of the reasons they moved to Oregon was, in terms of natural disasters at the time, very few in Oregon. They don't get hurricanes, they don't get tornadoes. Up until this year, or the last couple of years, they didn't have any life-threatening fires. There is a Cascade Fault, so there's a chance of an earthquake. But if you look at the United States, it's one of the places where they have the fewest natural disasters until this week.
Wow. Well, I had heard, it's a
Yeah.
whole nother podcast, I guess, but I had heard California, the reason why they have so many fires is they stopped doing natural burns or controlled burns and stuff like that, and so when they have a fire, it just gets out of control.
Well, what happened was the reason it's so bad this season is there was a 4 or 5 year drought. It killed a great number of trees. So what's happened is they're just standing there, they're just firewood standing up. And so even though the drought was broken last year, the reservoirs are full, they're still the dead trees. And so that's why it's just, we were living in Northern California in the Sierras, and one of the reasons we left there and came to the Northwest was because they told you in the summertime, sleep with your windows open, just screens. Make sure you have the dog crates and all the animal crates ready, a bag packed. If you smell smoke, don't look back. Get out.
That sounds paranoid. That's a tough life right there.
Yeah, well, the town of Paradise in Northern California, not far from where we live, the entire town 2 years ago, I guess, burned to the ground. And so it's just a bad situation in the Sierra. It's beautiful, but, the fire danger is so bad. And then, of course, my wife got chased by a mountain lion, so another reason to leave. But, yes, that's why we went to the Northwest. Pacific Northwest, it doesn't burn down. Well, until this week.
Well, it'll get better. My goodness. Hang in there.
Yeah, I'm sure. Well, normally, this time of year, it started to rain we thought we dodged a bullet. When it got to be Labor Day, like, wow, made through another summer, no fire. And all of a sudden there's this like 50-mile-an-hour gusts, power poles knocked down, and that's what sparked the
Well, there's not much you can do about that. My goodness.
no. Well, you know what it is? My wife said, how come they don't put those things underground? Well, because it costs like 4 times as much to put them underground.
Yeah.
But they may consider that now that,
Yeah, but in the mountains, too, that's going to be even more crazy.
yeah, and, California, because of the power lines above ground, they've cut power to like 175,000 people in anticipation of something like that happening to keep the, fire down. Yeah, so anyway, Germany's looking pretty good.
Yeah,
right
yeah, I've said that too. 2020. It's a good place to be. I'm an American, so I just live here.
Yeah, the question is, why are you in Germany at this point? Why are you there? It can't be the
No,
forest
I was
fires
already
in the
here.
US.
I'm a chiropractor. I was working over here in Cologne, and just everything just dodged. I got out of China, went to America for a few months, and then boom, Germany, and then Corona hit like full force. So we were just so lucky to take a job in Europe for the time being. I tell you.
Yeah, because we're getting 30, 40,000 new cases a day here, and I think in Germany and in Europe they're digging like 100, 200, 300 new cases a day.
Yeah, I think, was it Italy or Spain? There was someplace it was bad. They were like, yeah, the whole city, I don't know, city, state, country, whatever, was just locked down. You couldn't leave your house for like 2 or 3 weeks, but they had to because there's so many people not getting sick.
But I mean, that helped to control the spread.
Because we're open now, you can fly and stuff. In Europe, it's fine.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to, but
we're not, Justin. We're not, Justin. We can barely drive.
But we have mask mandates. It's a €150 fine if you get on the subways or any train without your mask. Yeah.
Oh.
The almighty dollar will make you wear a mask.
Well, and here in Oregon, the governor passed some kind of executive order. You can't go into a store or whatever without the mask on, which is fine.
That's what we've been doing. It's not that bad. I've seen some made from Afghan scarves. You're like, okay.
Yeah, I actually ordered a clear one. Should be here next week, so that people can see me smile. Because as a comic, facial expression's a big deal, and it's and communication. Facial expressions are a big deal. So I thought a clear one with a HEPA filter, sweet.
Yeah, I mean, as a doctor trying to build rapport with new people, I'm like, oh, that was a joke. You can't see my smile. Sorry. Yeah. Read my squinty eyes for a moment. But anyway. So, brass tacks. Here we go.
Yes.
Depression, suicide. And to start it, I was listening to something you said. It seemed like there's some big name entrepreneurs, Kate Spade, Anthony Bourdain, I'm sure tons of other ones, that potentially have these mental illnesses that have become an entrepreneur because they have nothing else to lose? What's that about?
Well, that was my fourth TEDx talk called Suicide, the Secret of My Success. I was living in California, San Diego, married to my high school sweetheart, a lovely woman, but we didn't belong together. I was selling insurance, which is a great business, but not for me. And because my first wife didn't like the idea of me doing stand-up, I wouldn't go into open mic, which is where I thought I belonged. And it hit me that I was depressed and suicidal, and if I didn't change something, sooner rather than later, I was going to kill myself. So my second thought was, I could divorce my wife, quit my job in insurance, try comedy. If it works, great. If it doesn't, I can still kill myself. So with that in mind, and having spoken to a number of entrepreneurs and entertainers who had a similar thought process, I read several studies that said a third of entrepreneurs are depressed and suicidal. And I think the clinicians who did the surveys believe it has a lot to do with little sleep, long hours, and unmet expectations. But I believe that a slice of that, a significant slice of that number, they're not depressed and suicidal because they're entrepreneurs. They're like me. They are entrepreneurs because, in fact, they were depressed and suicidal. I believe Anthony Bourdain, his passion was food. His folks took him to France when he was 8 years old, and he fell in love with food. And all through high school, he worked in restaurants, and he was at Vassar, a really great college, but working 2 jobs in 2 restaurants at the time. And my guess, and he had some underlying mental health issues. He was self-medicated. He was sending the busboys out to buy crack for him. Yeah, I mean, he made no bones about the fact he had substance issues. But my guess is second year or third year, whatever year he was at Vassar, probably a good major, probably making good grades. But I'm guessing thought to himself, this is great college. I got a great major, but this is really not where I belong. I should be doing culinary. I should, and then realized maybe that, I'm suicidal. If I don't pursue culinary, I'm going to kill myself. So there's that thought process. Well, what the heck? I'll quit Vassar. I'll go to the Culinary Institute. If it works, great. If it doesn't, I can still kill myself. Kate Spade she'd worked her way up at Vanity Fair magazine to the head of the accessories department. And, I mean, a big job.
Yeah.
My guess is she had underlying mental illness untreated, except, self-medicated. My guess is she thought to herself, I'm not supposed to be reviewing other people's fashions. Daggone it, I'm supposed to have my own fashion line. And maybe she had the same thought I did. If I don't change something and pursue my dream, I'm going to kill myself. What the heck? I can try establish my own fashion line, which of course she did. If it works, great. If it doesn't, I can kill myself. So that was the impetus for my TEDx. People with mental illness, oftentimes, I believe, see connections where other people don't. And so I saw all that kind of fell together in my head, and I thought, well, and I've got a comedian friend, a woman. We're chatting one day. She goes, Frank, do you want to know the real story of how I got started, why I got started in comedy? I go, sure. She goes, it's really dark. I go, I love dark. She goes, well, I'm working for an association in D.C., Washington, D.C. Good job, good benefits. But my only joy is twice a week doing open mic night, open mic comedy night. And she goes, I got to the point where I thought, it's a great job, but if I don't pursue comedy, I'm going to kill myself. Same thought process. Wait a minute. I could quit the association, try comedy. If it works, great. If it doesn't, I can kill myself. Well, and she's telling me the story. She goes, so I thought, and I go, let me finish your thought. You thought you're suicidal. You could quit the association, try comedy. If it works, great. If it doesn't, you can still kill yourself. She goes, how do you know that? Honey, know that I live that.
Right.
So I believe oftentimes entrepreneurs, some of that third probably are entrepreneurs because they were depressed and suicidal, feeling like they're living in somebody else's life. And if they don't do something, and the good news there, Justin, is the power of that is if you're going to die, to make the change, you really got nothing to lose. You can put it all on one roll of the dice, and if it works, great. If it doesn't, well, still kill you. And by the way, I have what's called chronic suicidal ideation, meaning for me and people like me and my tribe, the option of suicide is always on the menu as a solution for problems large and small. And the example I give is, a couple of years ago, my car broke down, the car I'm sitting in. And I had three thoughts immediately unbidden. Get it fixed, buy a new one, or I could just kill myself. That's how it's always a solution. And, at the beginning when I told you the story about going back into the fire zone, level 3, where they, it's like, get out now to get the cats, a friend of mine said, you could have burned up in there. And I said, no. You forgot my superpower. I'm willing to pull the trigger anytime. I'm capable. I sit in the exit row, window seat of a plane, essentially. I'm willing to open the exit and go anytime. So I would have never died in a fire. They would have found me dead, but it wouldn't have been the fire. Because, I'm willing. They would have found a bullet in my head. That's what they would have found. Because I'm not going to. So it actually gave me the courage to go back in knowing, look, I can't leave the cats. If I die trying, that's fine. But I can't live with leaving the cats behind. And if the fire gets too close, I've got a 380 cold pocket light with hydroshock hollow points, one of those, and there's no coming back. So fortunately, Justin, I didn't have to put. Again, spoiler alert, I didn't pull the trigger, and the cats are
Frank
fine.
done stood me up today. I can't believe. Stood me up.
Yeah, that's right. Son of a gun. What, he died by suicide? Oh, yeah. My dog ate my homework.
Likely story. With someone like yourself who has that on their back burner at all times, is there therapy that you have to go to to keep those thoughts in check? Is there pills that you can take for the depression or for bipolar or something like that to kind of get you out of, maybe I can do this?
Yeah.
So you don't get so low?
I didn't take anything except a supplement called SAM-E. It's good on 400 milligrams in the morning on an empty stomach. It's good on mild depression. And that took me till I was 60. And my wife goes, you're 60. Ask the doctor for something. I said, okay, fine. So he goes, why do you want antidepressants? And I told him.
Oh, gosh. We're going to lock you up for a month?
Yeah, because that's the thing. In the United States, you get locked down for telling your doctor.
You can do everything except kill yourself in America.
Yeah, so I told him a story about the car. Get it fixed, buy a new one, I could just kill myself. And, man, he grabbed his prescription pad so fast. And he wrote me a script for what's called Wellbutrin. And about half the people who take it love it. The other half can't stand it. It didn't work for them. It worked for me right off the bat. 3 weeks in, my wife noticed the difference in my personality in 2 weeks, but didn't say anything. Third week, Justin, I had this thought unbidden. I like my life. Whoa.
What's this?
I mean, I've got a good life. I've got a good life
Mm-hmm.
anyway. But I hadn't had that thought since high school. And my second thought was, why did I wait so long to take these pills? So it's called major depressive disorder. It's like a wheel with a flat spot on it. It lasts anywhere from 2 days to 2 weeks. Mine lasts 2 to 3 days, and recurs like a wheel with a flat spot that keeps coming up. With the medication, it's longer time between the incidents, and the time that I'm down is short.
But you recognize that it's happening.
Yeah, and I've had it for so long. It's not pleasant, but it's certainly survivable.
Okay.
And because the chronic suicidal ideation, every time I've spoken except once, I tell that story about the car.
Mm-hmm.
And somebody, at least one person, every time I've spoken except once, has come up after my show. Because I say to the audience, look, we'll do some general Q&A, and if you got a question you want to ask, you don't ask in front of everybody. I'll hang out for another half an hour, answer individual questions. And one person, at least, every time except one show, has come up, and they've got chronic suicidal ideation. They didn't know it had a name. They thought they were some kind of freak. And a young woman came up to me afterwards at a college show and goes, I enjoyed it, but you made me weep. I go, how did I make you weep? She goes, your story about the car, get it fixed, buy a new, and just kill yourself. She goes, I've been having those thoughts all my life. I didn't know it had a name. I thought I was some kind of freak. And when I heard you say that out loud, she goes, I realized for the first time in my life that I'm not, in fact, alone, and I wept.
Wow.
So that's what keeps me alive, Justin. I'm sort of like, I feel like I'm sort of like George Bailey in It's a Wonderful Life. I've kind of been shown what people's lives would be like if I weren't there to speak and reassure them that they're not alone. So if I kill myself, I would end up taking all those people with me.
That's one thing, before you go, tips to know if someone's thinking about it, if there's signs that we can look at it as, and then what we can do if they're like, hey, I am talking about it. I have a plan of some sort. Like, what do we, how do we stop that? Because, my thought would be like, hey, you got a family, you got kids, you got a wife. Don't be so selfish. Are you crazy? And obviously those are all things you probably shouldn't say.
No, as a matter of fact, you get so much to live for. Let's talk about depression. Signs of depression. These are not an exhaustive list, but some of the bigger ones. Eat too much, can't eat, or sleep too much, can't sleep. Has trouble getting up in the morning, but then rallies in the afternoon. Not taking an interest in social activities they used to take a great deal of interest in. It's called isolation. They begin to isolate. And here's one you can notice even on Zoom, is they let their personal hygiene go. I mean, there's Zoom casual or Skype casual, and then there's, oh, my God, your hair's not clean, the clothes look dirty, because they can't drag themselves out of bed to get to the bathroom to shave or run a load of wash. So that if you think somebody's depressed, you flat out ask them, are you depressed? And if they say yes, then your next question is, are you having thoughts of suicide? And you have to ask that question. If you can't do it yourself, find somebody who can ask that question just like that. Now, let's say they're not forthcoming. They don't tell you. They won't admit they're having thoughts of suicide. How would you know? Well, talking about death and dying, Googling death and dying appears as a theme in their artwork, their music, their writing. Of course, gathering the means, pills are a weapon. Getting their affairs in order, especially giving away prized possessions. They want to make sure they go to the people they want them to go to when they're gone. And if the prized possession happens to be a pet, that's top of the pyramid in terms of dangerous.
Oh, yeah.
There's a counterintuitive sign that's extremely dangerous, which is they've been depressed forever, it seems. And now all of a sudden, no reason, they're happy beyond measure. You're happy because they're happy finally. Well, the problem is they may be happy because they've chosen time, place, and method, and they realize the pain is finite.
Yeah.
Because people say to me, why would Kate Spade, with everything to live for, die by suicide? Why did she want to kill herself? And chances are she did not want to kill herself. Chances are she simply wanted to end the pain.
Which is hard for us to think about. Like, life is that hard? You have that much pain all day, every day? Like, what's wrong with you?
Yeah, exactly. Well, I've said, if the Vulcan mind meld was a thing, I wish it was. Because if you and I are together and I'm circling down, in depression, if you could put your hand on my head and I put my hand on your head and you could get in there for about 5 minutes, you would come out screaming. An athlete here, No, not an athlete, a sports talking head, Skip Bayless, the guy's name, on ESPN, said something about an NFL athlete who came out as depressed and suicidal. And he said, the guy's a quarterback. He's the leader of the team. He's not supposed to give voice to those emotions. He's being weak and not a good leader.
Oh, come on.
Yeah, I got to tell you, the most resilient people I know are my mentally ill friends who have thoughts of suicide, because if they weren't resilient, they wouldn't still be here. It's not a matter of strength. Regardless of your politics, one of the things that Trump said that just sent me around the bend was, he was talking about PTSD. He goes, soldiers who are strong and come back from a war zone don't get PTSD because they're strong. Hold on, it's not about strength. So let's say you've noticed those signs of suicide. You ask them flat out, are you having thoughts of suicide? If they say yes, you say, do you have a plan? And if they have a plan, what is your plan? And if it's detailed, then you try to get them on the phone with the Suicide Prevention Lifeline, or now they're text lines for younger people. And if you're with them physically and they don't want to get on the phone with the Lifeline, you pick up the phone, you call the Lifeline. The volunteer will try to talk the phone into the hand of the person who's struggling.
Do you ever call the police?
Well, if they're in immediate danger to themselves or somebody else, you got no choice but to call the police. Now, there may be somebody listening to the podcast who thinks, well, I'm not physically there where they are. With the social distancing, my roommate from college, I'm reading his Facebook post. And,
I'm nervous.
And they're dangerous. It sounds like, I'm nervous about things in the timeline. So I would go and look, and sure enough, dangerous signal. And they said, what should I do? And I said, well, it's not going to make the person happy, but you need to, if you know their physical address, you call the police in their town. You say, look, I'm really worried about my college roommate from the stuff he's posting on Facebook. I believe he's suicidal. Would you go by and do a welfare check? So they'll go by. Now, if he is actively suicidal, chances are they're going to arrest him, take him in front of a judge, and seek an IDO, an involuntary detention order, for 72 hours in a lovely mental health gated community with no shoestrings or belt. So you're probably going to get unfriended on Facebook. But the guy's alive. So that's when you get the police involved. I'd rather not do that if at all possible, because, 3 days in a mental health facility, for some people, that's all they need to snap back. Just that rest. But some people are just going to be furious.
One of my past guests, I don't remember her answer. I'd have to go back. But I was asking, why are we allowed to do anything except kill ourselves? Why aren't we allowed to do that?
Well, there is an argument here in the U.S. and maybe around the world. This thought, whose life is it anyway? Who are you to tell me that I cannot end my life?
That will definitely negatively affect people in your life, but...
Yeah, there'd be collateral damage. But let's say you were single and there weren't, you were not going to leave behind any collateral damage, family or whatever. Now, there's another myth that people say, well, it's such a selfish act. Well, but what you don't understand is, in the mind of the person who's thinking about suicide, it's actually a selfless act, because one of the symptoms of suicidality is a sense of burdensomeness.
I'm a burden.
The world would be better off without me. I had $1 million life insurance policy. If I pull the trigger, my wife's restored financially. She'll be brokenhearted, but she's not going to be broke. She's going to get $1 million. So I felt like, that I was a burden. I was literally worth more dead than alive. Fortunately, I didn't pull the trigger, but that's so it's actually an irrational thought, but it is selfless in the mind of the person who is thinking about it.
Okay. Do you happen to have, before we go, any books or anything like that can help somebody if they know they have a problem and would like to help themselves? Maybe they can't afford a counselor or something?
Yeah, two things. There are usually counseling or therapists who work on a sliding scale based on your income. So you would Google mental health services free, and usually a list comes up of outfits that offer, a couple, 3, 4, 5 free sessions, and then they do the rest of them based on your income. If you go and they say you should be on a drug, there's now a cheek swab DNA test. It's a couple $100 they take your DNA and they try to match it to the psychotropic, let's say an antidepressant that works best with your metabolism, so that there's not that lab rat go on, taper off, go on, taper off. And the third thing is, it's funny you should ask. We're writing a series of books on men's mental health, because in the United States, 8 out of 10 suicides are men. It's called Guts, Grit, and the Grind. And the first 2 volumes are out on Amazon. Guts, Grit, and the Grind. And it's like a Chicken Soup for the Soul. It's an anthology, 12 stories in each book of 12 guys, each with a different struggle and how they're coping. Because men tend to take advice from men. So if you got a man story who's struggling with a particular issue like bankruptcy or substance abuse disorder or whatever, and we made it look like an automobile owner's manual, so guys would pick it up. And like a Haynes repair manual, if your carburetor goes, you go buy the Haynes repair manual, auto repair manual. You're not going to read it cover to cover. You're going to turn to carburetor.
Right.
So guy picks up the book. He's got a particular issue, looks in the index, finds the issue, turns to that guy's story, and see how he's coping. So it's called Guts, Grit, and the Grind, because there are very few books out there on mental health for men, because men generally don't talk about it. They're not, they don't share their emotions. And that's one of the reasons that the rate of suicide is higher for men. Because they, three times as many women attempt suicide, but men complete because they often use a gun.
Yeah.
So, anyway, those are the resources. If you're listening in the U.S., there's a group called NAMI, National Alliance Mental Illness, NAMI, and they have all sorts of mental health services. And guess what, Justin? Everything they do is free.
Wow.
Yeah, they got peer counseling, family-to-family counseling. They can make referrals. It's a great organization. I volunteer at the county and state level in Oregon.
I like that. That's some fantastic resources.
Yeah, it is, because I've got a friend whose son has schizophrenia or schizoaffective disorder, and it was about to destroy his family. And so he found NAMI, and they have a 12-week course, 1 night a week, for families of people with schizoaffective disorder, and they teach you how to, what to say, what not to say, what to do, what not to do, and how to find resources. And then they have family-to-family counseling. So you got another family with a family member who has the same thing. So you realize, A, you're not alone, and B, you're sharing resources. It's brilliant, and it's free.
And that's a tough one, too. That's a whole other podcast on what to do with that condition that we won't go into. But Frank King, I want to thank you so much for your time. How can people get in contact and reach you?
My website is thementalhealthcomedian.com, thementalhealthcomedian.com. And if you go there and put an email address in, I narrated the first book already. You can download a free MP3 of the entire 4-hour and 14-minute first Guts, Grit, and the Grind book. 12 stories, 12 guys. And as time goes on, I'll be recording them for Audible and putting a free copy up on my website. So all 4 of those will be up there eventually.
Okay.
If you type The Mental Health Comedian, just those words, into your Google search, you'll find me, because that's my that's my
it's all your social media handles.
Twitter and all my social media, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, all has The Mental Health Comedian. That's my brand.
All right. Well, this has been great. I think between the doctors that listen to this and the patients we have to take care of, this will be a very helpful episode for lots of people. So I really appreciate your time.
Well, and for chiropractors who are listening, if somebody in the U.S., if you see a doctor, they're supposed to ask you a couple of gateway questions about, have you felt hopeless in the last 2 weeks? Some don't ask because they don't want to know the answer, because it puts them on the hook. And you got patients lined up waiting. But what I recommend this for dentists and doctors and chiropractic doctors, is wherever you are, Google that area and mental health treatment resources, whatever, and print out a list of resources from, like, you've got great insurance to you need a sliding scale because you don't have the money. Print it out, put it in a white envelope, so that if a client, because I bet they say things to their chiropractor they don't say to anybody else. And so if they're upfront about their depression or whatever, hand them the white envelope on the way out with resource. That way you can send them somewhere. And I would advise the doctor or staff to follow up with them in a day or two, just to check in and go, hey, listen, how you doing? Okay. Everything going okay? You seemed a little depressed last time you were in, and we just want to check in on you. And man, I'm telling you, you show a patient you care like that. Yeah, that's a whole another level of service. Yeah. To go out of your way and do that. And I saw on some of your TEDx's and things, it's usually that one person that says something that stops them right in their tracks and keeps them alive for who knows how long. Yeah, suicide is the most preventable cause of death on the planet. And, you're not looking to treat them. You're just looking to plant a seed of hope and showing them that somebody cares. Because here's the deal. And I'll leave you with this, Justin. Here's why that's important. 8 out of 10 people who are considering suicide are ambivalent. They want somebody to notice and interrupt. 9 out of 10 people who are considering suicide seriously, in the last week leading up to the attempt, They give hints, verbal, nonverbal, physical, behavioral. Again, because 9 out of 10 people want you to go, hey, notice something and stop them in their track. So you can make a difference. You can save a life, and you can do it by doing something as simple as you and I are doing right here, and that's starting that conversation.
Another great interview has ended. While you're on your phone, click that review button. Write up a nice review for me. 5 stars if you could. As everyone says in the industry, it'll help other people to find us when we have enough rankings. Not to mention, I'll mention you and your review on an upcoming episode. If you follow me at all on Instagram, you know you only get one link. So I use a Linktree. And so it's a doctorsperspective.net/links with an S. And that's going to give you everything you need to know. The top episodes of 2017 and 2018, the podiatry series, dentist, acupuncture series, holiday 2017, financial series, how to write a review, how to support the show like buying a cup of coffee, getting swag like t-shirts, the Today's Choices Tomorrow's Health book, that's the blueprints for better health, exercise, picking food correctly, and financial. And then of course, bundle packs, which can get you the no needle acupuncture book for 40 common conditions, including the electric acupuncture pin at a great deal. The resources page has some of the products that I like. It's affiliate style, so if you buy something from them, I get a piece of that. Just like on the show notes pages, if you buy a book from clicking that link, I get a small piece of that as well. So I really appreciate that. Things like Screencast-O-Matic, Pure VPN, Missing Letter, JLab speakers, Prolone Edge or Hawk grips. Once again, if you do need any coaching on how to improve some of your blood work, drop weight, and the Prolone diet, fast mimicking diet 5-day plan, let me know. As well as if you just need some coaching, whether it's health, whether it's marketing, whether you need some practice growth, etc. Reach out. Facebook, Justin Trosclair, MCC. Of course, out of doctorsperspective.net on the top right, you got all the social media icons that you can imagine. Click your favorite and reach out. Thank you so much for tuning in. Please tell a friend, pass it along. You can go to .net/listen. It's just that easy. It'll open up right in your app. And don't forget, I appreciate you. Listen, critically think, and integrate. See you on the mini-sodes on Thursdays and Saturdays. Hope you're enjoying those. I'm definitely having fun summarizing these podcasts in less than 10 minutes for you. You get the nuggets without having to waste your time. Have a great week.
A doctor's perspective. Learn stories of success. Avoid struggles they've met. When doctors of all kinds come together to help you shine. So sit down.